Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to unpack how a monumental paradigm shift is transforming the global pharmaceutical industry right before our eyes. For decades, the global healthcare system has relied on a very specific geographic distribution of labor. But today, we're looking at three massive medical breakthroughs that prove a completely new era has arrived. And this shift, it matters to you directly, because it means the life-saving medicine in your future cabinet might actually be invented, not just manufactured, in India.
All right, here's our roadmap for today. We'll be covering from pharmacy to lab, breaking the superbugs, the CAR-T pricing revolution, leapfrogging with AI discovery, and finally, India's new innovation stack. We're going to start with the big picture, break down the cutting-edge science, and then look at the new ecosystem making it all possible. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. From pharmacy to lab, a paradigm shift. We have to start by establishing exactly what this massive inflection point means for the global economy and, of course, for everyday healthcare. So the absolutely crucial point here is understanding this leap. For a very long time, India was famously known as the pharmacy of the world, right? They were masters of process innovation. That's really all about efficiency, taking a drug someone else had already invented, figuring out how to manufacture it at scale, and making it incredibly cheap as a generic. But that era is evolving into something entirely new, the lab of the world. This is product innovation, and it is monumentally harder. It requires massive financial risk, deep science, and years of grueling trial and error to invent the new chemical entities, the actual molecules from scratch. To truly appreciate this leap, we have to look at the first major frontier where this is happening.
Section 2. Breaking the superbugs, featuring Enmetazobactam. Let's move to our first major medical frontier, which is tackling antimicrobial resistance. This is a silent, escalating crisis that is currently killing more people globally than malaria.
To understand how India is fighting back, we first need to define what Enmetazobactam actually is. Technically, it's a novel beta-lactamase inhibitor, but to put it much more simply, think of it as a chemical bodyguard for an antibiotic. See, bacteria like E. coli and Klebsiella are smart. They've evolved and actually learned to produce enzymes that literally chew up our best antibiotics. Enmetazobactam acts as an adjuvant that runs interference, blocking that destructive bacterial enzyme and rescuing the antibiotic so it can do its job against complicated urinary tract infections, hospital-acquired pneumonia, and bacteremia. I love this analogy because it brilliantly illustrates the biochemistry at play. Think of an old antibiotic as a key that used to perfectly fit into a lock to kill a bacteria. Over time, the superbug mutated and essentially changed the lock. What Enmetazobactam does is it goes in and removes the extra tumbler the bug added, so our old key perfectly works again. It's an elegant, highly detailed biochemical solution to a massive global crisis. Now this is a truly historic milestone. Enmetazobactam was invented by scientists at Orchid Pharma in Chennai, led by Manish Pol. This is the very first completely invented in India new chemical entity to achieve US FDA approval. It was outlicensed to Electra Therapeutics, and combined with cefepime, it's now sold as Exblifid. In 2024 alone, it secured approvals from the US FDA, the UK MHRA, Europe's EMA, and India's DCGI. This proves the lab of the world thesis on a global scale. And it's sparking a trend, too. Wockhart's Zainich recently became India's second FDA-approved NCE. The dam has officially broken.
Section 3. The CAR-T pricing revolution with NextCAR-19. Having conquered the bacterial frontier, we're turning to blood cancer and a concept known as frugal engineering for deep science.
CAR-T therapy is essentially living medicine. This requires a highly complex, personalized process. We aren't just talking about swallowing a pill here. First, doctors extract a patient's own T cells. Then, in a lab, they genetically engineer those cells to express a receptor that specifically targets the CD19 protein found on B-cell cancers. They multiply these engineered cells into an army and reinfuse them back into the patient. You are effectively turning the patient's own body into a targeted drug factory designed to hunt and kill blood cancer. It is, without a doubt, one of the most advanced medical procedures in human history.
This incredibly complex living medicine was indigenously developed as NextCAR-19. It was created by ImmunoACT, which is a startup incubated at IIT Bombay in collaboration with the Tata Memorial Center. This is India's first indigenous humanized CD19 targeted CAR-T therapy, and the results are just stunning. In trials with 64 patients suffering from relapsed or refractory B-cell lymphoma and leukemia, it showed a 67% objective response and about 50% complete remission. Let that sink in for a second. For relapsed blood cancer, a 50% complete remission rate is nothing short of a miracle. After launching formally in April 2024, over 350 patients across 70 hospitals have already been infused by early 2025.
And this cost comparison is truly jaw-dropping because it proves that cutting-edge cell therapy doesn't have to bankrupt a healthcare system. In the United States, CAR-T costs an astonishing $400,000 to $500,000 per infusion. Imported therapies into India were costing upwards of 3 to 4 crore rupees. But NextCar-19 was launched at around $35,000 to $50,000 US. That is about 1/10 the US price. It's 90% cheaper than legacy products from giants like Novartis or Gilead. This is frugal engineering applied to the most complex science on Earth.
History is literally repeating itself here in the best possible way. ImmunoACT has partnered with Cipla to take this affordable cancer cure to Africa. This mirrors the exact same playbook Cipla used to democratize HIV drugs back in 2001, when they took a $10,000 therapy and made it available in Africa for just $300. They are applying that identical, world-changing playbook to cancer today. What this ultimately means is that previously inaccessible cures for the rich are rapidly becoming global human rights.
Section 4. Leapfrogging with AI Discovery, featuring Peptris. Let's move to our third frontier and see how this builds into an entirely new technological era where India is bypassing traditional 20-year development cycles entirely.
This is where the story leaps straight into the future. Bengaluru-based Peptris Technologies utilized a proprietary generative AI and deep learning platform to discover PEPR-124, India's first AI-derived drug candidate. They're targeting Duchenne muscular dystrophy, or DMD, which is a fatal genetic disease. What's absolutely incredible here is that it's a mutation-agnostic treatment. In rare diseases, traditional drugs might only cure a tiny 5% genetic subset of patients. But a mutation-agnostic drug means it acts as a universal key for everyone with the disease, regardless of their specific mutation. This profoundly amplifies the impact of the AI's discovery. In March 2025, they actually outlicensed it to US-based Revio Therapeutics for global development.
Section 5. India's new innovation stack. By looking at antibiotics, cell therapy, and AI drug discovery in such detail, we can now clearly see the engine powering this entire global shift.
It's like a giant puzzle coming together to form a full academic, clinical, and industry stack that simply didn't exist 10 years ago. You have the brilliant academic foundation at institutions like IIT Bombay. You have world-class clinical trials executing at Tata Memorial Center. You've got the agile startup execution from companies like ImmunoACT, backed by the industrial manufacturing might of Lauris Labs. And finally, the massive global distribution network of Cipla. The old silos are completely gone, and these entities are now tightly woven together to seamlessly take a molecule from a local computer screen to a global patient.
This leaves us with a fascinating reality to ponder as we wrap up this explainer. Enmetazobactam proved that discovering a new chemical entity doesn't require 20 years in a Boston lab. NextCar-19 proved that cutting-edge cell therapy doesn't have to cost $500,000. The barriers to entry for life-saving, deep science have permanently fallen, shifting the geographic center of medical innovation forever. So, if the world now has a brand new, highly capable, and incredibly affordable global lab, what disease will they cure next?